dia ou noite, exatas ou humanas, cidade ou campo. Poder fazer escolhas significa conquistar um dos maiores desejos da humanidade, a independência. E o Sebrae acredita que empreender é uma porta para a independência, que está aberta para as pessoas de todas as idades, gêneros e que buscam mais opções para suas vidas. Para o Sebrae, tão importante quanto incentivar negócios a darem certo é apoiar pessoas que transformam sonhos em projetos de vida, que ajudam a gerar empregos, desenvolver a sua comunidade e a transmitir a cultura empreendedora no país. Um lugar onde todos têm liberdade para escolher, inclusive escolher empreender. Sebrae, a força do empreendedor brasileiro.
A moda da Malve não tem ponto final, igual a sua. Nós acreditamos que pequenas atitudes transformam o mundo. Quer mais atitude do que mudar o seu jeito de escolher? Moda inteligente, feita de um jeito mais sustentável que reflete o seu estilo. Uma peça de roupa pode viver muitas histórias, por muito tempo. Não é sobre ser descartável. É sobre você e sobre o mundo. Malve, moda sem ponto final.
Olá, bom dia.
Hello, good morning, everybody. Welcome to Real Ethical Fashion, this edition 2021, the third edition already. I am Yamê Reis, Executive Director and co-founder of Real Ethical Fashion. And today we have a topic that is so nice. We're going to talk about cotton, this raw material that is so old, one of the first used by the humankind. And here we have three experts in agroecology that will teach us a lot. We have two ladies, and this is even more interesting. We are talking about agriculture with two ladies. I'm so excited. In order to introduce Silvio Moraes, an agronomer, representative of Textile Exchange for Latin America. We also have Suzana Aguiar, agriculture and producer of organic cotton. She works in Rede Borborema and field assistant. Marilda Valdenira, an agronomer by the University of Ceará, works with agroecological network in different areas, Northeast, for 13 years, works for VEJA. So welcome you all. We are going to start up this panel with Silvio. Silvio, you are one of the pioneers in this area of working in agroecology in Brazil. We started working in 1995, and the situation was so different back then in the field because it was the time when the agribusiness cotton had a boom in Brazil. And you went the pathway, the opposite pathway. You choose this other pathway in a point that agrobusiness was raising. What was the situation like in the field and agroecology in this time when you started working with this? Yamê, first of all, thank you so much for this invitation. I'm so pleased to be here near these two friends of mine and workmates. Let me try to brief because there is nostalgia for me. There has been a long time, but I started agronomy in the 80s when I graduated in Porto Alegre. There was this movement, environmental movement, very strong. It was not a movement just protesting, but occupy spaces in the academia, in the state, and in the 82. In 1982 was the first law of pesticides in Brazil, the state law of pesticides in Rio Grande do Sul. The Congressman Ferrari that approved this project. It was the first time that we heard in Latin America about a law treating about pesticides, poison, agrotoxic. and tracing a plan to control it, to manage, register everything. This law inspired the National Agrotoxic Law, that is a model of legislation. Although all the battle to change it, it's still a law so useful to us. The context has been changing, but anyway, there is this great concern to prevent the advance of agrotoxic. I started with agroecology. We called alternative agriculture back then in the 80s. In the end of the 80s, the first project, it was in 87, not with cotton. In 95, I started working with cotton, organic cotton, in a project, it was in Ecuador. But in the same period of time, a little bit early, in the Northeast Brazil, there was interesting project producing organic cotton in a consortium, agroecological consortium, especially in Ceará, projects taken by Pedro Jorge Lima. And after that, associated to this project, there were companies, good companies like VEJA and others, trying to get and buy it according to the fair trade. This project produced in an agroecological way in that region. In 1995, this point was a transition point of the business model with cotton, specifically cotton in Brazil. Cotton has this tradition of a crop, colonial crop in the northeast area of Brazil, extending to São Paulo later, northern area of Paraná, where the industries were sitting in the 80s. Before that, up to the 80s, that was the context. Up to the 80s, there was bicudo, an insect that killed great part of the plantations in Brazil in the 84. There is a date of entrance in Brazil, 84, 85. This pest was introduced, an insect that does not exist, did not exist naturally in our country. It was Mexican in origin. It was artificially introduced in Brazil and killed plantation. And there was a change how cotton was cropped. It declined and then it returned in agribusiness in a very strong way. Agribusiness started working in Brazil in a model that was totally different when we have family agriculture. Cotton has the way it has today, large-scale production in monocrop in that savanna area, central area of Brazil, intensive use of mechanization, agrotoxic, fertilizers, assuring Brazil representing one of the biggest producers of cotton, but the cost of production and environmental social cost, we can talk more about it. The structure has changed from this point on. And the question, why I did not work like that? Because of the moment I was living, a personal decision, working for life and not for business, not for the market, that what cotton as a commodity. Agroecology represents the opposite. Agroecology, the producer, the girls can talk better than me, is a production that is concerned about the community, fair trade, the environment in a different way. The convention production of cotton is a uniform field, then you see machine everywhere. You do not see people. If you see agroecological production, is the opposite. You see people working. The owner is near the production, and the trading is totally different. The context is richer since the beginning. For me, it's more interesting. And it's important to say for people who are listening to us, this model that comes up in this context in the end of the 90s is predominant nowadays. That organic cotton expresses just 1% of our production, maybe less. So here we are talking about agroecology, this model that is totally a resistance to this standard that is dominant in agrobusiness nowadays. It's important to understand these differences, and here we are going to establish the importance for this model so we can have it and we can motivate this. I'm asking Suzana now, that is a young person, agriculture, was born in the field, in Paraíba, isn't it, Suzana? You are in Paraíba. And the choice is to stay there. Her choice was not leaving, not migrating to the city as many other young people. And girls that dream of going to the big city, Suzana embraced the field, agroecology, and it's beautiful. She goes to university now to study agronomy. And I'd like to hear from you, your work in Borborema. What is Borborema Network, the work, and also with VEJA? Good morning, everybody. I am Suzana, agriculture, family agriculture here in Paraíba, born and raised here in the fields. I have a nice story. I'm a granddaughter and a daughter of family-owned people that love to live in the field, would never change this life for anything. I remember that my mother tells me and my brothers to the field, we were raised in the field, looking at them working, the drought period being resistant, producing food, taking back home. This is really gratifying, and this was something that since early age give me value to production, family production, and keep in the field. This is important. But I have chosen this agronomy course. I'm so happy. I'm inspired. Val, a friend of mine, Maria. We have inspirations, and this is important for the young person to keep in the field, to be inspired, and to have perspective that the life in the field is viable, is gratifying, and we can live with a quality of life there. Borborema Network of Agriculture is the first participative of compliance registered in Paraíba since 2016 by the Ministry of Agriculture, Supply, and Cattle Raising, and we are developing certifying activities, issuing compliance certificate, using the stamp of organic for the primary vegetable production. It is very gratifying when we see that the certification brings this aspect, the importance, not only agroecological importance, we see with the certification, social organization, we can achieve autonomy, the agriculture during this process. Borborema Network was created according to the agriculture need. Margarida Maria Alves, a settlement. At that point, it was not viable to have audit and certification. With the partnership with Embrapa and other associations, it's been 3 years of educating and forming our network. It's important to highlight young people. Women were essential for this network, always highlighting that the network is not only producing cotton, the network is a matter of life, love for the field, for the organic production, agroecological production. And we are motivated by having autonomy, income, the union among agricultures. We also foster social organization, fair trade as well, open up a dialogue, having more autonomy to talk about trading, and also producing healthy food for food safety of our families and offer consumers food without pesticides. And the network is open for visitors. And we want to live and our voice here echoing agriculture and the importance, as Silvio mentioned, it's a life purpose. We know that life is like this, not only life, but production and the land use. We have to be aware of all these topics always. That's great, Suzana. Valdenira, we call her Val. We talk Val. Val in VEJA. Val started working. Her first experience was at SPAR. You tell me about it. SPAR, as Silvio mentioned, worked already with this crop of cotton in Ceará. And then after that, after graduation, he worked with them. And then VET comes to you in 2007 and place a challenge ahead of you, and you embrace this challenge. That is, working with this network, put up a network and certifying all these cotton producers. Tell me about it. and how your life has changed since 2007. Good morning, everybody. First of all, I'd like to say that I'm so happy to be sharing this panel with you in this event that is so important, Real Ethical Festival, near to big friends of mine that do believe in this different world. So gratitude to you, the first person to come to me, to invite me to participate. Gratitude to the team Real Ethical Festival. In fact, agroecology to me, when I started, there was a history. I'm a daughter of an agriculture, so I come from the field. My parents live in the field. They are growers that did not have their own land. They did not have their land, but no land, not the movement that protest for land. My parents, they are growers that do not have their own land. They do not own their piece of land to produce, not yet. And my father never used pesticide, agrochemical, never. So there was agroecology, what I experienced since I was 17 in the field, grow corn, yucca, and corn. That is our base for food. I live for a better life. I go to São Paulo, as most of the Northeast people in the 90s, we migrate to São Paulo, looking for resources, coming from poverty. And in São Paulo, I got a bad experience that was not I expected. I not getting rich. I was thinking that I was going to get rich in the 90s. Was not easy to become a rich person in São Paulo. There was a decline of that era of trading in São Paulo. I get back to Ceará and back to study, to school. I did not finish, not even mid-school, the 8th grade. I did not finish. In the middle of the school year, I moved to São Paulo, the mid-school. I get back to school, and then I have my daughter, and I need to provide a better life for my children, future children as well. I get back to school. What should I do? What do I want to do with my life? Never disconnected from the field, because there was the good life. If you put your hand on dirt, you produce something to take home. Not you go to the supermarket, you do not know the origin. So gratifying. You touch the earth, you go to the garden, you get fresh leaf and take home. I finished up middle school with 2 children. And in 2002, I go to UFC University. I love the agronomy course. In the end of 2000, I had no idea what would I take in order to take care of the land. I did not have information. I came from public school, a woman, a mother, studying at nighttime, working daytime. All this is struggle. When I see a profession, in a profession meeting promoted by the university, I get the flyers of all the courses, university courses, and then I see agronomy. That's it. That's what I want to go. I want to study that. And when I visit the university, I get in love on how big it's all. The campus is so big. It's beautiful. So I say, that's what I want to study. And I get to know Professor Theogenes, that was the only one in agronomy that had this bias called land conservation and handling. He was the coordinator of this discipline, and he talked about it. Do not kill the land, do not degrade the soil, not agrochemicals, but correct management when you crop, when you sow. And there was a research project. I was selected to be part. He introduced me to SPLA. It was 2004, the beginning of 2004. And this scholarship would be in a partnership with SPLA. And I met there the big idealizer, Pedro Jorge, is the one to blame that my life is connected to cotton. I am coordinated by Pedro Jorge Explar. He takes me to the northern area in Ceará to get to know agricultural crop. I started in 2004 with other technicians, almost finishing up my university, going to the field to see the agroecological consortium and food crop. I'm finishing up my university degree. 2007, I get to Francois and Sebastian in an event, the first event of cotton, agroecological cotton in Brazil. Let's call it this way because there was Northeast, the 6 states that had incentivated by SPLA, representative of Paraíba. Suzana knows these 2 representatives, Melchior, he was from Embrapa, Zé de Sinésio, who lives in the same settlement that Suzana does. These 2 representatives that came, Marisa Gadelha, Dr. Renato, her husband, they were in this event. I get to know François, I talk to him a little, and then he leaves. He comes back, calls Pedro Jorge. At that point, the company was growing. It was launched in 2005, 2007. We see this consolidation in France and demanding the clients. I need to know that is organic because DEC, that is the association, did not have that stamp of organic cotton. It was agroecological, producing according to the law, but no certification. So March 2008, François calls Pedro Jorge, and Pedro Jorge calls Theógenes to talk to me. I was in my final discipline, starting up my master degree in soils. I started my master degree in soils. And François launched the question, would you like to work at VEJA? And I said, what should I do there? And this was a Skype meeting. I want you to organize the producers for the organic certification. I look at him, what do you mean? I'll be honest, I do not know anything about it. What is organic process? I am at university. I just calculate sprays for pesticide. I do not know other thing than this. And then he said, you have 3 months to seek for information and qualify for this process. Do not worry, we pay for everything. So I had up to June to graduate. There is a single discipline for the undergrad that was irrigation that I failed. So I said up to June, when you graduate, you qualify for that process. So I started researching how to certify. And then I have brought an infola that abroad you can have internal control. In Brazil, we did not have any certifying company that accept internal control for family agriculture. And I confront and say, there was a notebook, they did it abroad, and IBD accepted to have the certification of internal control for this group, DEC group. And then we did it since 2008, under my coordination up to today. The system. That's great. We are going to get back to the certification. It's very interesting to talk about it. And it's interesting as well, Val, to hear your trajectory and see how important it was to you. Instinctively, you find your way and you met these mentors, these people that gave you a hand and take you to the path that you intuitively define as good for you. Going to São Paulo, getting back to your hometown. This trajectory is beautiful. And this meeting with François was so important for your life to change everything. He placed a big challenge ahead of you. You said, I do not know how to do it. You have 3 months to know about it. And it's nice to hear this story. I get back to Silvio now, so he can talk more about it. I hear Silvio. the conventional cotton growers say that agroecology is not a solution for cotton. Why? Because it's not scalable. The demand of the industry is gigantic. The cotton growth in a consortium could never cover this demand. How would you answer to that? You have heard this before many times, right? Yes, yes. If you consider the situation in conventional agriculture, Brazil is one of the big producers of cotton, conventional cotton. Brazil is producing 2.4 million tons this year. 1 million, more than 1 million of hectares. Organic cotton in Brazil, this year data that we collected, the crop was 135 tons. It's very small in comparison, but in a very small area, 1,400 hectares, but we are talking about more than 2,000 growers producing more people than conventional cotton growers. You see the dimension of the social impact of agroecology. And the thing is, conventional cotton keeps the production stable, flat, throughout the years. Organic cotton increases at least 30% more every year. The year before last year increased 50% of the global production, plus 30 this year as well. This is not for no reason. All the big companies in Brazil, the big retailers, C&A and Renner department store, they have in their strategic planning sustainable cotton, preferably organic. We have all the big brands with production lines of organic clothing. The consumers demand more this. Also, the pioneers that for many years are producing already clothing with preferential fibers and organic cotton. The demand is growing, and the organic cotton production is growing as well in a higher demand because of the demand. But organic cotton does not represent 1% of all the cotton produced globally. And then there is this question, how can we leap? How can we go ahead? What's missing? We cannot answer that, not now, but we can think about some solutions. We need to change a model, and this will come as the consumer concern and the society grows. This is already ongoing. I compare it with the transition that we have with some interruption lately for the couple of years, but it's ongoing. In our energetic matrix, Brazil has an energetic matrix, reasonably sustainable, depending somehow on fossil fuels. And if we think up to 5-10 years ago, nobody talked about wind and sun energy, renewable energy as an alternative for the energetic matrix at a global level. Just in people's mind, that have more information and were concerned about sustainable development long term. And this is now a reality. There are European countries that changed their energy matrix in very few years. In Brazil is following this line as well. I see it the same way for cotton. Cotton experienced a transition moment that's not overnight. Not necessarily cotton, there are other preferential fibers, natural and synthetic fibers that are recyclable. But the search for alternatives for sustainable material for the textile industry is a reality. In the textile exchange conferences, we see more and more work and more concern, and it's growing. How can we address this transition? That's the question. And that's my question. We are talking about a model change. And this model change, I understand, according to the girl's speech, the agriculture needs to own the land to produce. And that's the key aspect. I pass the microphone to Suzana because she told me that she owns her land, and I was thrilled when I hear that because she is part of the settlement in the agrarian reform opposite to Val's family. We have different realities here. Suzana, you have the microphone to tell us very briefly the systems of certification created in Brazil, that participatory certification, and the growers themselves in a network, they can supervise and give authenticity to that organic grower. Suzana, the floor is yours. That's great. You are talking about land. A movie comes to my mind, remembering my parents. I am a granddaughter and a daughter of producers, but life has not been so wonderful. I am here. The growers have their space. But I remember the importance of owning the land. My father and my mother always worked, and my brothers, in someone else's land. They did not have land, nothing, as Val said. And I remember love to do it. They knew how to do it, grow. They did not have their own land to produce. When you get the land, they produce what we call half area. Everything that my mother and my brothers work with their sweat all year long, all their production, they had to cut in half to the owner because they own the land. 100 sacks of beans, 50 belonged to the owner, but the owner did not work. That was sad. I remember my father prayed to God 1 hectare of land to work to call my own. I remember in 2006 and 7, we had this contact with the agrarian reform, land reform, and there was our chance to own our land. So September 2007, my father fulfilled his dream to own a piece of land, and it goes beyond. According to agrarian reform, he gets 10 hectares of land. We are growing and keeping the food safety of our family, the importance of having the land to work on and produce. And here we see most of our growers that are part of Borborema network, they are growers in the agrarian reform area. You see people that put a great effort in agroecology. This is connected to the agrarian reform, not only in Paraíba, other states as well in Brazil. And people say, oh, the grower, certifying a grower, what do you mean? So remember, this model, this mechanism of certification is regulated according to organic law in Brazil. So the network, in order to perform these activities, is not just visit the grower. No, that is a visit script. We have manual for procedures. There are statutes. We have all the regulation in our association. We see that the growers can control. They know what they are doing. They know how to apply for certification, and that's nice. In order to have the certification, we have 2 groups of profession, and the groups receive the visits of the ethical board, the assessment board. We have the ethical board and the assessment board, resources and technical board. I'd like to say that the certification is all year round. It's not just a single visit and then you are certified. No, the certification is all year round, monthly meetings, general assembly, annual audit at MAPA, qualification courses, training sessions. It's important to explain so people know what we are doing. That's the certification aspect. We, the growers, receive the qualification to visit the field following a script. Especially, I say that in agroecology, participatory system, we do not say, I go and visit to survey. No. We are the base of agroecology. We are the foundation of everything. We work on trust. In order to be part of a participatory system, I need to get to know someone in the network already in order to be inserted in this process. Everything, trust is foundation, dialogue. Of course, we follow all the regulations and everything. More importantly is trust. And this generates, we see, this has brought fantastic changes in our community, social organization, young people participation, women in the field is so gratifying to see. In the past, 5, 10 years ago, it was impossible to see a woman or a young girl like me in this environment or in a meeting, monthly meeting in a production group. During the visit, I see now when we invite someone, the growers for the meetings and assembly, if they say, I have a meeting, but my wife will go. This aspect, I get surprised and you say, that's wonderful to see it now because we are concerned in reaching something so big, so grandiose, and we forget to value small achievements. And this is something important. The certification, the participatory certification has brought autonomy. We can open up a dialogue, but also quality of life of the growers. I say that goes beyond of certification, just producing cotton or any other crop. It transforming lives. That's what we are doing. That's very important to bring this aspect because this network and all the participatory certification interferes directly in the social relationship of the area. And I'm asking Val now, in your region, what was a company like VEJA with a meaningful growth? Suzana describes something. How did it spread in your area, this network? And if that has brought an impact in people's lives in that region, how? How was the impact? I would like to highlight on top of Suzana's comment, if I cut in 2008 and 2009 when I visit the settlement that Suzana lives in one of the meetings, we did not see women, no women. If I get my pictures back then when I visit the settlement in 2009, 10 and 11, we do not see women. Nowadays, when we get there in the beginning of the year, in any other point of the year for a meeting, you see more women than men. Children, young people, it's so gratifying to see the evolution and the empowerment of these families. You see the husband, the wife, the children. The room gets filled with people when we visit to celebrate a moment, to talk about contracts, to talk about something. There is a full house all the time. And this is so gratifying to see how big and the advance of Borborema network has brought to empower all these families. Here in Ceará, before Borborema network in 2009, with the arrival of public funding, PDHC project funded by the Ministry of Agriculture, funding this project, agricultural consortium. We had Embrapa and ISPLA in the coordination of all the states. Since 2009, they have started to see that the law was enforced. We just have Covida network in the southern area, Torres, the office, led by Laércio Meirelles, that brilliantly has contributed for the organic law, participatory systems of guarantee. And then he said, the participatory system is a beautiful fashion of Brazil. We only see it here. It started here. It's a beautiful fashion of Brazil. And here in Ceará, 2012, there was 2 OPACs, CEPA and SEB. These are 2 associations of participatory systems that they have the contract of sales of certified organic cotton. So since 2009, we have had this partnership with these 2 associations here in Ceará. And in the same period of time, Elder Câmara project motivating this certification model, we see the expansion in Piauí, Rio Grande do Norte, Paraíba, but not registered, CEPAC, that is the young association in the system, that returned from the ashes like a phoenix and is transforming itself. When we see all over Brazil, there are several associations in the participatory system, 71 registered already. It's an achievement, a big one, since 2012, 2009, the first one, and up to today, in this process, we see 71 associations registered under the Ministry of Agriculture. In Northeast, we have this association. We are going to create 2 more in the state of Alagoas and Sergipe, that they are in this project funded by the Institute, not CNA, from Textile, the same models as the project for technical assistance to bring autonomy, to open up a way for these associations to have more autonomy. It's already under the process of opening up 2 more. I would like to see them all over Brazil. The only state that will not have the association is Maranhão. I have a question. I had a question before about it. If the fashion companies, fashion institutes, if they collaborate in order to foster the social technology, as we call it, in these associations that develop and foster cotton trade in agroecology. Somehow you have already answered. We have Nauts Foundation, CNA, and some brands that are growing and developing this economy. I pass the microphone back to Silvio. He's the representative of Textile Exchange. He has a global view on the context. And I have a curiosity about Latin America. We are in the global certain area, a continent where we have a historical similarity on the extractivism and colonial processes and business models, exporting commodities, mining. And my curiosity is to know, Peru is a country that grows cotton importantly at a global level with a good quality. Silvio, can you talk about organic cotton in Latin America in general, especially in Peru, please? Of course, I would like to comment something about Suzana and Val mentioned about OPACs, this participatory system of certification. This is a good jabuticaba here, a blackberry, reproduced in different countries. The importance and the reliability, next IFOA conference, international agency to deal with certification, the standards, organic standards, September. We are having a pre-conference to talk about participatory systems of certification to assess their performance and working on the universalization of this system is totally trustworthy and brings a social impact. In alternative, we have audit certification that are ongoing and is still present all over the world. So this system brings advantages that we cannot deny. Back to Latin America specifically, Textile Exchange works producing annual report on production and market for organic cotton. There is a specific report and another report for preferential fibers. When we talk about other types of fibers, I'm connected especially to this organic cotton report. We have to identify prospect projects that work with organic cotton. And for specific reports, we consider organic the ones that are certified according to the audit or participatory systems. And the main players in this topic in Latin America, we have Peru, the biggest grower of organic cotton throughout more than a decade. There is Brazil, second place, and some projects, smaller projects, starting up generating cotton, certified cotton in Latin America. In Argentina, a project for 2 years certifying organic cotton in small scale. Interesting work in biodynamic agriculture, not only organic, considering other interesting aspects. Also Colombia, a project this year. Haiti, developing for years, certifying for the first production this year. The production goes to timberland. Projects in Paraguay. Meaningful scale that we can say Brazil and Peru. Peru, more importantly, producing this year 600 tons of cotton, and Brazil will reach this year 150 tons of cotton. The production way in Peru is different there. There is a production in large scale, but not as big as our agro-business. Conventional production is still mid-size, and they have characteristics of cotton that is large fiber, pima, desirable all over the world, extremely good quality, similar to Egyptian cotton. Peru has an interesting aspect, is forbidden transgenic. So it's easier for organic agriculture. You do not have contamination of organic properties and transgenic vectors. And the characteristic of super quality cotton because of the variety of fiber produced. Here in Brazil, this cotton, we have mid-sized fiber with the growth production. When you asked about the agribusiness and how can we somehow get a conflict, I compare it with two kinds of organic production. One is the Indian process and the North American process. The Indian process, it's a small grower, normally associated in the cooperatives. This production is similar to what we have in Brazil, except that they do not use the consortiums, but they are small growers. They produce cotton. They are raised by the hand, good quality. India is one of the biggest producers. If we think about the global production, that is China, representing more than half of all the organic production. India, more than half of organic production. Then there is China, 20%, and the other countries. But India is really the biggest producer of organic cotton. After this model for the family growers, we have the North American growers. In the US, it's a paradigm for the agro-business. They have organic cotton production that is important with a different production. You have monocrop of organic cotton. If you see a farm of conventional cotton and organic cotton, side by side, you cannot tell them apart. The use of the products. It's a different model. They produce organic cotton, no pesticide. The model of production is so different from ours, the Indian or ours, their production model. What I mean that, yes, it's possible. I do not see a conflict and a confrontation with agribusiness. Agribusiness has opportunities for mid-sized producers that raise the awareness of sustainable work. They can perfectly produce organic cotton as well. This would be one of ways to guarantee scale, converting these growers that are conventional now, mechanized production of agriculture, start producing organic cotton in scale. Quality would be totally different. The machine and the hand working with the environmental and social impact is so lower compared to the cotton produced in Northeast. And it's important because you have raised another topic that people ask frequently. The difference, we are not talking about organic cotton, we are talking about agroecology. When we talk to Suzana and Val, we talk about agroecology different from organic cotton. Both models do not use pesticides, but organic cotton can be producing monocrop, like agrobusiness, without using agrotoxic pesticide. And this is the American model. You talk about a transition from this model of single crop, today produced with agrotoxic, to be transferred to a single crop of organic cotton. Is it possible, Silvio? as an alternative for the Brazilian cotton, I see this movement ongoing. There are some companies, big producers, that would like to enter this market. There is this higher demand of organic products. They are going for this alternative. In the Congress that we participate, I never seen a big grower. Last year was the first time that we met a conventional big grower, one of the biggest one as part of the Congress of Textile Exchange. They have interest, of course. I hope their choice would be working with organic cotton, agroecological cotton, not only because of commercial aspect. They bring their principles. It's not only have the agriculture of a single crop, they must organic. They have consortiums, they have to comply with the legislation on generation, respecting the environment. And that's why the concept of regenerative agriculture is growing, getting more and more important in the fashion industry. Organic is not enough when you want to see a social transformation, environmental transformation. And the English speakers countries, they talk about regeneration. We can translate to agroecology because they are the same principles of the regenerative agriculture. So there is a certification. The organic, that is the organic and regenerative. That's the line that we have in agroecology. Yes, I see a possibility of having more and more organic products in Brazil, mid and long term, produced in part of agrobusiness. I can see that. And it's interesting. I have never heard about it because in my mind, I'm thinking single crop, to me, even if it's organic or not, it's not biodiverse because single crop does not exist in nature. It's created by man. It's not a natural process. When you see nature is biodiverse, there are different crops at the same time going on. I understand agroecology as a model more integrated and more natural, more regenerative, as you mentioned. I will go to Val so she can talk about fair trade. Fair trade is one of the pillars in VEJA, and it's nice to understand their process in this relationship with the community. I have curiosities. You have a process, a contract, long-term contract. How do you define the price of cotton? Because international market price, the price goes up and down. How about in fair trade? Tell us about it, please. At VEJA, in the beginning, when I started working, there was a contract, 3-year contract, and the defined price. 2008, when I started up to 2010, there was DEC and Ceará, and there was a contract of 3 years, and the price was stable. When we sit and finalize the contract, 2010, and we talk to the growers, they say, we need to go for a year contract so we can change prices. So we started meeting their demand of having annual contracts because they knew that every year we are going to get back. They trust on us already, and they knew that we would be there for them. The paper was there, so we could get back next year to talk again. Up to last year, we had yearly contracts. Last year, we hear the opposite. You should have longer contracts, right? For this year. In our contract, it's 2 years, but there is a clause that the price, we can talk more about price later. We just have an access for next year. The contract will keep the same, but we are going to annex the price aspect for 2022 because 2021 is defined and signed, the contracts in the beginning of the year. So there is this, why we do not have 10, 15-year contract? Because when we see different needs, every year in the family agriculture, we change clause, we change the premium according VEJA, the financial situation, we change the association award. It started 50 cents, 5% of the receipt. 5% of the receipt on sales would be given to the association. So it gets stronger. And then we change 50 cents and then to 1 cent. Now, last year is 2.50. So as VEJA moves ahead, we also bring them along, make them stronger somehow, giving extra awards for the growers. It was sneakers for the production, 150 kilograms, sneakers for the champions, tennis shoes for those in the drought year, it was 2012. So the one who achieved the little cotton, all the growers get sneakers because it was so hard for them to produce in a dry year. So we thank for their resilience, for not abandoning anything. It was the worst year on drought year. So we have these changes, but they know about it. DEC, 19 crops already bought. With RBA is the second contract, but in the settlement, it was not with RBA, it was the local association. In the settlement, we are in the 5th crop. In the past, we bought once. This is very dynamic. Explain something. The association, when you mean association, is the representation of the growers, right? And through this association, you have the negotiations. Yes, you're right. Because it's hard to have a single contract for 1,200 growers that we have. So, no, we go to a site, we have an organization to get these producers. We have family owners with different pieces of land. So, we need an organization to gather them all in order to have volume. So in the association that Suzana belongs, 40 units of production in order to gather 6,409 kilograms. So you consider 40 units of production, 40 families, in order to have the production volume. We need a representative to organize everything so we can have a contract. We always visit the community to give back a contract, to discuss. We take a pre-price because we consider inflation. It was hard last year to consider just the inflation rate, staples, food. The capital cities in Northeast, the staples have different prices, a price raise of 45%. Especially because of rice. Rice increased 230% the price. So these staples elevates the price. And this year, the increase was much higher than inflation rate. And it's not volatile as the market. If I see today in CPEA, the data, official data of 15 kilograms of cotton, is raising. In the beginning, Silvio said, this year, Mato Grosso decreased in 19% their cropland. The offer and demand, we do not have in the fair trade. It's low when there is a lot of production. In Reis, because there is little production. And we state our price in the beginning of the year. In December, we define the price. Conventional cotton could be 0 or 1,000. We never change because we are not in the crazy world of stock market. We have our commitment and we honor this commitment on that price. And opposite, it's a totally different way of establishing prices. And it brings more safety to business, more stability to business. the way that you explain. I'd like to get back to Silvio. There are too many challenges that cotton, agroecological cotton brings. What do you think that we should do to have an advancement? Because it's urgent to advance, not only because of social conditions that are urgent in Brazil, agrarian reform, but also there is a demand that is not fulfilled. I see a question here. How can the brands, and I see this in reality, small brands cannot buy organic cotton in Brazil, and there is demand. Small demand, but exists a demand that is not met. How do you see this matter of acceleration of growth? Exactly. In Brazil, cotton is not sold, it's bought. It's different from a model. It's not a commodity. Even an Indian model, when you have cooperatives producing organic cotton in large scale, and they wait. They place in the market according to the buyer. In Brazil, all the successful projects come from projects that were motivated by buyers or NGOs connected to buyers. VEJA is a wonderful example. Before talking about the difficulties, I think about all the potential we have in this country to produce organic cotton, agroecological cotton. We have thousands of growers and organic growers ready to grow cotton, bringing cotton in their organic consortium. That's the great aspect. We have agro-food consortium. They do not produce cotton, they produce cotton plus food. They are small growers, not possible to have all these growers produce 1 hectare and go to 10, 20 hectares next year. We need more growers producing cotton. But we have organic growers ready to grow cotton. We also have growers in the neighboring areas that do not produce organic because there is no market. They do not know about this possibility. We need to increase the number of growers. The potential of production we have is undeniable. There is a company of research in Embrapa that produce great part of technology for organic cotton, recently producing little because it's the production in the savannah, in the agribusiness. But in Embrapa, they have researchers that are serious and productive working with organic cotton. They see a challenge. Agricultural production is so hard. There is this need of technology and research, but we have the tool. We have this institution that is a national heritage. They try to dismantle it, but it's Embrapa. We have a system of certification, as we mentioned. We have certifying agencies in Brazil producing and certifying organic products for many years, IBD, EcoCert. We also have the participatory system to decrease costs, bringing advantages for the organic certification. And we have a chain of production, totally verticalized and national for big brands, big retailers, and also fashion industry, niche market. You see the producer knitting, knitwear so close. What is missing here, in my point of view, is a higher support and incentive for the growers. VEJA did that with SPLA and other NGOs and other companies that do it. They recognize growers and give them the guarantee of purchasing their production with a fair price, offering seed, technical assistance. This support could come from the government. We need public policies for this sector. There are some examples that are worth mentioning. One in Paraíba, there is an entity of technical assistance called Empaerda Paraíba, developing for many years a program that is organic cotton in Paraíba. The technicians offer technical assistance for organic production. Brazil had a very good example in 2008 up to 11 was this program that Val mentioned, PDHC, Dom Helder Câmara project, funded partially by the Ministry of Agro Cattle Ministry, did not exist anymore, with the funds from the Institute Inter-American for Agro and Cattle Raising, FIDA Institute, funded this project. The support of different NGOs for technical support, helping to organize all the growers, creating a structure of participatory certification that Val commented, at least 6 associations and 5 certified by MAPA. It was a jointly effort in a few years that has changed the organic production scenario in Brazil. We can replicate and scale this up. I have no doubts about it. And I see a lack of commitment of brands, retailers, and industries, people that will produce a product and take to the consumer, helping to create a structure so we can have a transition to organic with a scale but sustainable. That's great, Silvio. We have to conclude in 10 minutes. I asked Suzana about Silvio's comment. How do you see this growth of the number of growers that can get involved in this type of consortium, in this kind of association? How do you see this in your region, Paraíba? There is a question here, and you can answer this. Where are you? Rede Borborema, and how can we visit? I am Suzana, a grower in Paraíba. Our city is Remígio, 30 kilometers away from Campina Grande. It's a big city. In order to visit us in this period of pandemic, we are not welcoming visitors, not now. But our social network, you can contact our Instagram at Rede Borborema, and then you can contact us. I am a secretary, I can answer you, and we can schedule a visit. We receive visitors from researchers. Silvio visited us, that was gratifying before the pandemic. VEJA and other companies come and visit us frequently. I stop and think about it because people say, why don't you grow? Because VEJA has a big demand on cotton. The network is searched by other companies to buy the cotton. And I think like this, of course, the role of the network is to take agroecology on, exchanging experiences. And the president of the network, Alexandre, says, we do not want to come people in the network, the grower that has already a history in agroecology. We want to have people that used pesticide that would like to leave pesticide aside and want to know agroecology and want to produce this way. The main aspect do not come because you want to produce cotton, to trade your cotton, because if we think about producing an increased scale and increase hectares, this is not a context of our history, not even agroecology, because there is a reason behind why do I grow cotton. Not only cotton, I grow cotton and also corn, no transgenic. We have beans in different types, diversity. Cotton is a way to generate income because we are in this dry region, we have difficulty, low rain, and cotton adjusts and it's so resistant, as the Northeast people never forget our roots. And I do believe that VEJA, when we talk to Val, they are not concerned about growing and buying cotton. Their concern is if there is a purpose in people's life, if you're producing organic cotton, agroecological cotton, in a proper way. And the grower will produce this cotton not because there is a broad market for companies. They think about the financial aspect, but also a life change. We know the agrotoxic pesticide is damage for health, for land, water, air, also animals. We have to think about it. I see things this way. Our growers, we always see how we're going to produce and improve our production system. Talking about Embrapa, this year we had the technology of Embrapa because it takes longer to plant and that is cost, is planting season. And with Embrapa's technology, they had a planting. Instead of 6 people, we have the labor in some families, and the families, the labor is us, the family. So it's important when we are connected to these research institutions, teaching institutions, to see technology to help us in the field to develop that crop. How can we achieve and enlarge? Are we going to have labor for that? Are we going to produce a cotton in a larger scale? That is all this aspect behind. I'd like to talk about the importance of research, the importance as grower. We see people interested in supporting us, in supporting family agriculture, agroecological production. And we talk to the growers. You plant 1 hectare, half hectare, less than a half hectare. We always say the important is you are doing what you love, you are using the land, and you are taking good care and preserving, at the same time generating income to your family. That's it. I get concerned because people think that let's increase the production, there is demand for cotton, let's do it, but we never forget the principle of agroecology. Why should I do it? Why should I plant? Why should I offer? It's not nice thinking about sustainable fashion that needs cotton. Let's plant it. No, that's not it. I want, when we see a company, a sneakers of VEJA, going around the world, people trust there is a commitment that cotton came from a region, Northeast Brazil, that value local culture, that values the resistance, the experience with the dry period. It's not easy for the growers every day in the field working. And we do not work with irrigation. We have to wait for the rainfall. We find alternatives in our production, but producing for a cause, for a concept, for history, as my father said, cotton has history. So it's important to bear in mind not only the cotton production, organic and agroecological, all the sustainability aspects. We have to think about it. Why? Why to supply that product, that raw material? We have to be careful about it. That's important, this comment, Suzana. We always talk about, it's very expressive to understand sustainability. There is another timing, another pace of things. It's different from this crazy acceleration of capitalism, and how you bring this aspect that fashion is not only about clothing, it's not only about products. Fashion is about people. And I think that your comment is exactly about it. I'd like to hear from Val. What do you think about this process of agroecology? Can be better communicated, can grow, we can have a more dominant pattern in the field more than it is nowadays. How do you see as an important contribution? One of the main pillars Silvio has already brought. Paraíba is the single state that put all its labor force of the public worker, that is the technical assistance company, in favor of agroecology. No other state. They tried in Ceará, Pedro Jorge, many times. We visit with François in the Secretariat of Agriculture to ask for not get in the way of our process, because we are planting seed, no transgenic. The government distribute the transgenic seed. So our struggle in Ceará was the Secretary of Agriculture do not distribute transgenic seed anymore. So without this incentive in Ceará, cotton brought by Embrapa, transgenic cotton, we are concerned. They are knocking at the door. There is this experience of conventional model and with spray transgenic seed, saying that's high production. But we know that here in the drylands, this does not happen. It happened what happened in India, suicide, the beginning of transgenic in India. It was so sad, people losing their crops. Northeast has a specific characteristic. We do not have irrigation for the moment. This is local agriculture. If there is a year 150 millimeters of rain, this cotton dies. Our cotton that we plant, non-transgenic, these two varieties that we plant in Northeast, 286 and Aruera, they are now they are native, they are being planted in Northeast. So it's the 13th crop, they are native, they have adjusted here. They was produced for savanna, the same as BRS 286. We need to raise the awareness of the government to look at family agriculture and practice agroecology. All this conversation now, we are wrapping up. I see that Brazil has a very big potential for an amazing future for cotton. We talked about Embrapa, that is an institution that can contribute a lot, and they contribute a lot to establish the science in the field. We have this participatory certification created here in Brazil, and this is an amazing pride. Congratulations to you that practice that, and you are leading this in a beautiful way. And we also have the industries and the sector, a full chain. End to end, we have cotton, also the fashion schools, we have the retailers. We consume this cotton here inside domestically, so we are a power. We can become a power in agroecology and organic cotton. In order to wrap up this amazing conversation that I loved, I ask you a final consideration in a sentence about the future of cotton. How do you see the future of cotton? Starting up with Silvio. There's not much to be said. It's so rich to hear your opinions as well. It's clear to me. It's going to grow. The demand on organic grow, we cannot meet anymore. But I'd like it to grow, not the way we see it nowadays, this fast fad, this crazy consumerism. We have to change the production model, but also the consume model. But there is a demand on this kind of this wonderful fiber that is organic cotton, much higher than demand that we can meet. Brazil can choose of being part of this movement or not. Brazil will participate thanks to the work that we see, this wonderful work in Northeast. It can grow to other regions. It depends on the political willingness, the incentive given to these growers. Val, how do you see the future of cotton? I would like to be inspired in the dream. I wake up tomorrow and the world is up to have sustainable cotton. That's great, Suzana. I believe that the future of cotton is sustainable cotton. In addition to that is a sustainable world, people that are more aware, people that really are concerned about people, about land, and concerned about harmony and respect with nature and human beings and diversity of each and every person. There's no need to produce food or raw material that is sustainable if you do not have consumers that are aware. I believe that we have to understand that It's not only producing, but to be careful with nature and the environment that we live. We would like to leave for future generations. I believe that the future of cotton is that, in addition to production, sustainable cotton, but people that are more and more aware with production and life, of people that are involved in sustainable fashion, sustainable production. That's great. We wrapped up this panel. I'd like to thank you so much for your participation. It's beautiful. This panel is available on YouTube for everyone that would like to see it later. Thank you so much who watched us this morning. To tell you that we are getting back to PM, BRT, with other amazing panels and wonderful conversations. Give you a kiss to girls and Silvio. Thank you so much.